try to be kind, but it's hard to be under the circumstances. I mean, I think he's basically doing what he can in an extremely challenging situation. Less diplomatically, I think he's flailing. I think he's trying to come up with anything that will sort of put a ceiling on the tension, so that he can begin to, he and others can begin to ratchet it down. But
when they announced that bilateral agreement on Tuesday, it was like pulling a rabbit out of a hat almost. It said, "Oh, this puts the onus on the quartet."
It has. I mean, as far as I can tell, I mean, I haven't had a chance to see whatever fuller public explanation of the agreement there is. But it just sounds like the usual half measure that you pull out in the hope that you can at least show that you're doing something. You have a deliverable, as they call it in diplomatic speak. And I think that the problem that Tillerson has is that first of all, as you sort of mentioned at the beginning of the program, there's a certain extent to which he's sort of undermined potentially by the tweets of the man in charge in Washington. He's also representing the largely civilian part of the U.S. government, which doesn't necessarily see things the same way that the military.
Won't the military be on the same page, since they have bases both in Bahrain and in Qatar?
Well, I think if you unpack all of this, yes and no. I mean, I think that as far as the military base is concerned, and the need to keep the fight, or keep the focus firmly on the fight against Islamic State, and to protect core U.S. interests in the region, you're absolutely right. On the issues of Iran and the immediate threat that Iran poses, I still think that the civilian part of the U.S. government, despite Donald Trump and despite the change of administration, has a much more nuanced view than the military does, which tends to say repeatedly that Iran is the #1 threat. But to describe the dynamic, the thing that Tillerson is really facing is that as far as he is concerned, okay, what he's dealing with are people in Saudi Arabia and the UAE, the hardliners, even Egypt, who are basically saying, okay, you can't tell us what to do because we are your customers in what is one of the most lucrative areas of U.S. arms contracts. We are also the people who are receiving the services that you provide in terms of military and intelligence cooperation, not to mention a certain amount of political cooperation. It's very much a situation where Tillerson is finding that he has very little leverage and that he cannot ask very much of the Saudis because they are actually the ones who are in the dominant position.